Welcome to Vegan Business Talk with Katrina Fox, author of Vegan Ventures, Start and Grow an Ethical Business. Hello and welcome to episode 61 of Vegan Business Talk. I'm Katrina Fox, journalist, author, media and PR coach, copywriter, editor and proofreader, and founder of Vegan Business Media, a content, events and training platform providing success tips for vegan business owners and entrepreneurs. In this episode, I interview Ed Lower and Malindi Lovegrove from the Chocolate Yogi in Sydney, Australia. Ed, who's from the UK, worked as a bookkeeper for many years in the media, entertainment and technology industries while nurturing his creative side with a side hustle as a voiceover artist for TV ads, cartoons and online media. Malindi, who's Australian, has worked as a community development worker in South Africa, the UK and in Tanzania, where she lived and taught about sexual health and HIV prevention in a rural village for 6 months. She's also taught yoga and meditation all over the world. After returning to Australia in 2013, the husband and wife team started their business because they both had dairy allergies and couldn't find creamy vegan chocolate that they liked. They began experimenting in their home kitchen and started to get involved with Sydney Vegan Club, educating themselves about how animal agriculture impacts people, the planet and animals. Already vegetarian, they quickly made the transition to ethical veganism and began gently introducing the philosophy into the Chocolate Yogi's branding and packaging. In this interview, Ed and Malindi talk about how the environment where a food product is made and the energy that goes into making it impacts its taste, the key investment they made at a time when they were down to their last dollar that was instrumental in enabling them to scale their business, how they got their products into more than 100 stores without a distributor, why national distribution is not necessarily the best way to go initially as a small business owner starting out, how they got an initial investment to get the business started after just a 10-minute phone call, and much more. Here's the interview with Ed Lower and Malindi Lovegrove from the Chocolate Yogi. Hello, Ed and Malindi. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Hi, Katrina.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Oh, it's great to have you. I'm very excited about the growth in your business. I'm a fan of your chocolate, as you know, Chocolate Yogi. So it's great to have you on to talk about your challenges and your successes. But first of all, we'll start off with the question that I ask everybody, which is all about the why. What are your drivers for running your vegan business?
You want to answer that one?
Yeah. Okay. So for us, it's actually changed over the timeline of our business. So when we started, we were vegetarians with dairy allergy, and I was really into my milk chocolate. But I found that all the vegan chocolate that was out there that I tried, a lot of it was quite dark and it didn't taste the way that I found chocolate or that I preferred chocolate to be. So it was an unfamiliar taste.
Yeah, we tried quite a few.
We tried a lot. So I actually, I started making it at home, and then when we were thinking about starting a business, it seemed like the natural idea to follow. And so I felt like there must be other people out there that they want to avoid dairy, but it's really hard because milk chocolate is so addictive.
Mm.
Like I found sometimes I was slipping back at the beginning of my dairy-free journey. So that's why we started. And then once we started, we got involved with the Sydney Vegan Club. We were supporting Films for Change.
You're going to events.
Yeah. And through that, we actually educated ourselves about what's happening in the animal agriculture industry and the effect it's having on the animals, on the planet. And also, we were already vegetarian, so we were also already
with our dairy allergies, we we didn't have any other real, like some people dairy allergies have goat cheese and all that kind of stuff, sheep's cheese, and we didn't really have that. So we were kind of, in many ways, we were already vegans, but we had the odd egg, so it wasn't.
Yeah, so it just kind of took us to consciously choose to become vegan, and then to put that back into our business. So we actually started putting some gentle vegan messages, on our social media and on our website, and eventually now, it's actually on our packaging. There's some sort of quite gentle messages, I think it's just to build consciousness about our food choices.
Make an impact.
Wow, I love that. Yeah. I love that story because I can relate to that on several levels. Because I went vegan 20 years ago, and at that time I had a major chocolate and sugar addiction. Really, I would chocolate, cakes and sugar. And I remember when I went vegan, I was like, oh my god, what am I going to eat? And luckily for me, there was a very pioneering company that in the UK that's been around since the 60s, and they made a particular type of chocolate that was similar to Galaxy, which I don't know if you have in Australia, but we had it in the UK, which was really, like you say, that creamy milk chocolate. And I was so grateful for it. I was like, oh my goodness, because I think it is important, if we want people to embrace vegan living, then obviously eating is a big part of our lives. And if we can give them alternatives that are just as creamy and tasty and delicious without the cruelty, that are healthier and all the rest of it, then that's fantastic. So I can definitely relate to that, and I love that story. I actually didn't know that about you, even though we've met a few times. I actually didn't know that you actually came from the dairy-free allergy, and then you moved into the the consciousness around it, the ethical side of it. And I think that's really important. So I really want people to know and hear that, because I know sometimes in the vegan community, people sort of criticize those that embrace plant-based eating because of the health aspect, saying, well, it's a philosophy. And it is a philosophy, absolutely, I get that. But I think there's a lot of people I know, and you're now two more I can add to my list, who have come at it through that health aspect, but then, like you, have educated themselves and realised, become conscious and really embrace the ethical vegan philosophy. So I love that you've shared that, and I think that's really important for people to hear that. So that's fantastic. And I also love that you created a business. So you started out making the chocolate for yourself, to satisfy your own needs, and then found a market and created a whole business around it. So really brilliant. That was fantastic. So I was going to ask you about, well, why chocolate? So we know that now, but why the name Chocolate Yogi?
Well,
it's a bit of an unusual one. Well, we basically, I've been practicing yoga for 15 years now.
Yeah.
And I taught yoga. I taught yoga in Africa, in South Africa, and Tanzania, and I taught it in prisons, and I was very passionate about yoga because I saw that it had a big impact on people and really helped people to deal with stress, and there's a whole lifestyle around yoga, which includes what you eat. And part of that is that when you make food, your state of mind is considered very important. And if you're making it in a peaceful environment and with a lot of love, then people eat that energy as well as the actual food. So we applied that to chocolate, and when we make our chocolate, we always do it after meditating, and we also chant. We might do these Sanskrit chants that we learned, which bless food and give it a nice sort of energy. We do that when we make the chocolate itself.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's such a cool story. Again, I didn't know any of this. This is so cool, because it's kind of words you don't normally associate, chocolate and yoga or chocolate and yogi. So I love that you've brought two things that are, considered perhaps, to be almost polar opposites. You found a way to bring them together. And I like what you say about the making of the food. That's actually given me food for thought, because I hate being in the kitchen. I really don't like being in the kitchen. I don't like making food. And sometimes, I'll make it and I'm feeling a bit resentful because I'm kind of like, I could be doing something else. So that's actually kind of interesting. But when I do I make a bit of raw strawberry ice cream sometimes, and I actually do make that because I love it, and it does taste better. So I think there's a lot to what you're saying there. So thank you for sharing that. That's fantastic.
Pleasure.
So let's talk about some of the challenges, because obviously, in running a small business, you're starting it up particularly, there can be quite a few challenges. And one of the things that I found with talking to other vegan business owners, whether that's in Australia, the UK, the US, and other places, is that they found that the more ethical you make your product, the more expensive it has to be when selling it to the public. Because, if you want to make it organic or vegan, eco-friendly packaging, and you're not able as a small business owner as well to buy in bulk and get those big discounts, that you have to make the end product more expensive. So I'm curious about how you deal with that kind of challenge to stay competitive and attract customers.
Well, we had a real challenge with that to start with, because when we first started out, we released our first line of chocolate bars that were they were in boxes and they looked really premium and everything, but we were trying to get across that they were fun at the same time. But the problem with it was that the price point on them was higher than people were often willing to pay. And something that we discovered that was really important was looking at the mainstream market and seeing how things are packaged, how they're placed there, like how they're priced, because perception is like one of the most important things, because how people perceive things on a day-to-day basis is driven and affected by what they see, what they hear, what they smell, and the fact is that in the mainstream world, there's millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars spent by all the corporations, the big corporations, that are designed to affect how people perceive things. So that's why when you look at an 80 gram or 100 gram bar of chocolate, they're all the same size and the same shape, and they're in the same way of packaged on the shelves. So perception is really important, and price, because if you look at organic things in a supermarket, we did a lot of research into how they're priced, and typically double the price of a non-organic product is pretty standard, and it's perceived as normal, even though a lot of people say, oh, organic, it's a bit pricey for me. So people who say that, they're not going to buy organic. But people who buy organic, they already know that organic is double the price, and they're normally going to pay that. But if you bring something into the market that's like it's 3 times the price of the non-organic thing, and it looks smaller, and it might be pretty and premium looking, but it's 3 times the price and it looks smaller, you're setting yourself up for a fall, unless you have got millions of dollars to spend on marketing to actually get people trying it and actually people seeing the value in it outside of what they perceive as normal.
Okay, so you said you found a bit of a challenge with that with your own product. So what did you do? How did you overcome that?
Well, we with that we released our new fun range bars, like our Honey Bumblebee and our Astral and our Head in the Clouds, and the 3 new ones we launched in January. But yeah, we released them so that we looked in on ourselves and what we really value, and we looked at what drives us. Like, we're very creative and we love having fun. We have tickle fights pretty regularly during the week.
I love your honesty.
we watch a lot of Disney. We're both sci-fi nuts. We love fun movies. We don't watch horror. We don't really. I mean, neither of us. I mean, I'm probably speaking myself more now, but I've never really bought premium chocolate in my life. It's not really. I would always buy the more mainstream everyday chocolate because I liked how creamy it was, and I like the colors of it. I like colorful stuff, and we both love colorful stuff. So we went back in on our own to ourselves. So rather than looking at what our competitors are doing, we're looking at what we do and what we love, and we came up with these new fun bars that are fun, they're creative. They play the same game that the mainstream chocolate bars you see in Coles and Woolies play. And we brought the price down, so it's double the price of a mainstream non-organic chocolate bar. And then we put them in packaging that people are familiar with, and so they go when they see it, they go, oh, it's just like that chocolate bar in the mainstream shelves. Obviously, it's a brand name,
but if it's twice the price, though, why would they choose to buy yours over the mainstream ones?
Organic.
Okay, so it's the organic. Okay, so is it about then educating the consumer and actually moving your product into the premium range and letting people know that it's in the premium range and that it is organic and appealing to those particular consumers who want to buy organic and ethical products?
You know,
I think that I think the number of people who are becoming aware about organic and vegan is obviously it's growing all the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's really gaining momentum at the moment. And to be honest, we actually don't have a problem with convincing people to spend $4 on a chocolate bar, because people are absolutely fine with that, because they know that their money is going to an ethical company. It's not harming any animals. We're causing the minimum harm to the planet that we possibly can. We're looking at moving towards compostable wrappers down the line, but again, that's something that, as a small company, it takes time to work towards. And you know, people are really willing to vote with their dollars, and I'm finding it's happening more and more.
Yeah.
And there's actually this quote that I wanted to share that I heard the other day on social media, which was along the lines of, every time you buy something, you're casting a vote for the kind of world that you want to live in.
Oh, lovely. That's so true, isn't it? So true.
Yeah. And I think people are waking up to that, because to be honest, we don't have, like, very rarely someone says, oh, it's a bit pricey.
Yeah. They've actually, those people who said that have actually, on 2 occasions I've seen it, they've been, they don't live in Australia. They actually come from another country. So Australia can appear to be a lot more expensive when you're coming from any other country, because things are, in terms of dollars, they're probably double, I would say. I mean, a tub of hummus is like $7 here. In England it's like £2 or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. So that's cool. No, I'm glad you've explained that. I think you explained that really well. What other challenges did you have when starting up your business?
So we
quite a few,
quite a lot loads and loads of challenges, right? And we're always having challenges now. It's just part of it. But we had when we started, there was a general lack of experience in every area. I was a bookkeeper of 10 years, so.
Oh, that's kind of handy, though. Yeah, I was going to say.
It was very handy. It still is very handy. But we didn't have sales skills. We didn't have professional chocolate making skills. We just had Malindi was making it at home, and lack of funding. And also just general knowledge about when to spend money on stuff, and knowing how to get shops on board and distributors and how to make profit, how to actually make your company make money for you, because you start a company to get yourself out of the rat race, and so you're not working your ass off for the rest of your life. And otherwise, because that's very easy. You see a lot of people that start businesses and they're really just buying themselves a job for the rest of their life. That's actually harder.
That's true. So what did you guys do? Because I know you've had, you've gone from, from, like you say, starting in your kind of home-based kitchen to achieving national distribution, I think within about 2 years or just after. So how did you manage to scale your business? What did you do with that? And I love that you've done that in such a short space of time. Without having all that experience. So can you give us a little bit of a kind of helicopter ride, a brief summary of how you actually managed to do that? How did you make that happen?
Well, do you want to
I can answer that. So it's quite a lot of things. I think one is we're action takers. So we didn't think too much, probably not enough at the beginning.
Yeah.
We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into there.
Yeah.
But our journey actually started when we went on a business seminar over a weekend, and the guy there encouraged us to start a business, and he gave us just some basic tips. It was like, if you want something, you need to ask for it. So if you want investment, you have to go out and ask for it. So that's what we did. We went out, we asked for investment, we got it that weekend. He said, you guys need to learn sales. If you don't know how to do sales, you don't have a business. We went on a sales course.
Which we spent every cent we had at the time to move out, which was set aside for moving house the next week. And it was like, it was nearly a $4,000 sales course, but it was every cent we had. And we just took the plunge and we did it. And that was what made us decide, okay, we're starting a business.
I love it.
Sales. Yeah.
We had no option to go back after that.
Yeah, that was point no return.
Yeah, sometimes that happens, when you're all in, you kind of got to make it work. That can be a really good incentive. So what about getting into the distributors then? Because that's quite a milestone. So how did that happen?
So I think the key to that is, so after the sales course, Ed went out to a lot of stores, not just in New South Wales, but in other states, and so sold our chocolate into those stores. And he did a really great job.
Fantastic. Wow. So you did that one-on-one with individual stores. You started by doing that yourself.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I got us into about 100 stores initially.
Wow.
Myself.
Yeah, and that's just hard work. Like, it's just, okay, finding all the stores. Like, you can look at other businesses online and see what stores they're in, and then you can
businesses in your field. Like, you can either be your direct competitors, or they can be other similar products like health bars, or if you go into a health food store and you see chocolate there, for example, but you might see kombucha, or you might see health bars, you might see vegan, gluten-free pasta, you might see those things. So you look at those kind of areas.
Yeah, and
let me just ask you that. Just want to pause you there, because that is really quite an achievement. Now, to get into 100 stores, if you're dealing directly with those stores, isn't that an awful lot of administration? Like, because you're doing all the, the organising of the delivery, the sales. Didn't you have to have complicated systems in place, like to make sure that the stock is being supplied when it's supposed to, you're being paid when you're supposed to?
Well, that's where my 10 years of experience came in. I've got a very kind of logical brain when I need to. And from the word go, we decided we were going to go ACO certified organic. And as part of the certification, it pushes you. You have to have all the systems in place for all this stuff. And I've always liked software solutions. So we've got, since the word go, we've had inventory production software in place, and it all links to our accounts, and it links to our website and everything, and we control all our production through that, and it takes care of all traceability, everything. So
Fantastic.
For food manufacturing, that's invaluable.
That makes sense. Okay, cool. All right, great. So you got that all set up yourself, and then so how did you get a distribution company on board?
So what we've found, and we know other brands who've said the same thing, is that once you're in a reasonable number of stores, distribution companies start to take notice, and we were actually approached by a couple of distributors, and then we did our due diligence and looked into them, and which distributor we wanted to work with. We spoke with stores. It's also good to speak to other brands that are with those distributors, and
very important.
See what their experience was.
Yeah.
And then through that, at the time we chose to go with a national distributor. So that meant obviously we got into all the states quite quickly.
Fantastic. So how did that help with, so you already got your products in 100 stores. So when you got the national distribution, did they take over those 100 stores, or did they just get you into even more stores nationally?
Kind of both. You offer the best thing to do is probably to offer the you give the store a choice, because not every store will work with the distributor you choose to go with. So you want to keep your direct relationships open. If you always keep them open, but you want to keep the direct sales relationship and fulfillment open with the stores who still want it, because like sometimes, distributors have always got minimum order quantities for the stores ordering off them, and if it's like a little cafe or something that only wants your chocolate and doesn't want to order, like, I don't know, $500 worth of other stuff, then you can help them by maintaining that direct relationship, and you keep it as a prepaid thing when you can, because you're running a small business, and if you don't get payment before, and you have 1,000 of those coming in, when people pay you afterwards, how do you buy your ingredients?
Yeah, exactly. So that's with your direct sale. Presumably with distribution, that's very different, and that they pay you afterwards.
Look, even with this distribution, there is room for negotiation.
Negotiation.
Okay.
And I think you shouldn't be afraid to ask for what you need, especially when you're a small business. And usually, if they're, a reasonable, like if they're a distributor that's doing quite well, they can have some flexibility.
Oh, okay, that's good to know, because I always assume that distributors are very much right. There's at least 30 days trading terms, or some I think I've heard are even longer than that. So that's good to know that it's worth negotiating and putting it out. And also, I guess then they don't ask for exclusivity, so the distributor themselves are quite happy for you to maintain those direct sales with stores if you want to. They don't kind of insist that they have to take over everything.
Well, quite often distributors do ask for exclusivity within their area of expertise, or their geographical market. Area. It is quite common, and again, you have to negotiate that with them as to what is fair between you and them, and it just depends on the distributor and what you both agree.
And asking for what you want is really important. So if you want to get prepayment for X amount of months, or for a year, or ongoing forever, I mean, start with that. I mean, it's like haggling, I suppose, isn't it? But a bit more professional, in a bit more professional manner, I suppose.
But you have to, when you negotiate, you have to also, there's give and take.
Yeah.
And also it's about saying to them, well, look, you have to sell to them what benefit it's going to be to them, and to support your brand in its early stage, and all that kind of thing.
And that's when talking to other brands who are with distributors, who have successfully navigated around distributor agreements and relationships. That's where that stuff is invaluable. Their feedback is invaluable. I mean, we can't go to one of our competitors and say, what did you do? Because they wouldn't tell us. But you could go to a different kind of. You could go to a kombucha producer or a biscuit producer or whatever, and ask them how they navigated distribution. Quite often people are very happy to share their experience.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, many of them share on this podcast, like you are as well, which is fantastic. But it's interesting. I was quite keen to dig into that distribution, because I know I've spoken to people within Australia and outside who have had, quite mixed experiences with distributors. I know one brand who started or had a distributor, and then they've actually taken they've broken that agreement and now deliver their product to them, to the stores themselves, because they just feel like they're getting a better deal. And although it's, obviously a lot of work, because they're literally driving around delivering, but they felt like, in some ways the distributor almost could destroy the brand reputation. Do you know what I mean? Like if they didn't supply them on time, or if there was a negative kind of thing going on, there's the risk of that. When I'm just thinking, you've developed these 100 or so, great relationships of these stores, and that's something to consider. That, you know, if you've done that already, do you then want a distributor coming in and taking it over and maybe not doing it quite as well? I guess those are things, like you say, to consider and to negotiate. So that's brilliant.
Yeah.
You shared a lot of good intel there. That's absolutely fantastic.
I'd actually, can I add something?
Yeah,
to that?
of course.
It's really important. I think from our experience, all those things you said are completely a possibility. We're actually looking at changing our distribution at the moment to a state-based distribution instead of a national. I wanted to mention this because I feel that from our experience, when you're a small company and you don't have a lot of traction, and I mean a lot of traction in the market, I don't think a national distributor is, well, from our experience, is necessarily the best place to start. There's several reasons. One is you just have one major source of income, and that's really risky.
Yeah.
And it means you don't have a lot of control. So, like, you know, if you have a different distributor in each state and one of them's not doing very well, then you can work with them to improve that, or you can get a different distributor on board, or you can take back and do, like, you know, direct, like you were just talking about. And often with smaller distributors as well, you have a bit more, like, you can talk to them and ask them what's going on, and they'll know exactly what's going on in the different stores, and they'll make sure that you have, you know, good representation on the shelves. You want that kind of a distributor who, when you're at this stage of business, when you're in the beginning, you need someone that can put that care and attention into your brand and really get behind it. You don't want someone with thousands of brands.
Yeah.
Okay, that's brilliant. That's really good, actually. Very useful. Thank you so much for sharing that. This is absolutely brilliant. Fantastic. So talk to us a little bit about staff, if you have any, because I'm hearing obviously there's the two of you that run it, and obviously you've gone from making it in a kitchen, I guess, to a facility of some kind. So talk to us a little bit about some of the help that you have.
Well, we've since we started making it, you've got different levels of productions. We've had casual staff, 2 to 3 casual staff part time, varying at times for the last year and a half, 2 years, doing anything from packaging to assisting with molding and molding and that kind of stuff, and add some admin tasks. But it's really important that when you do get staff, you know exactly what you're hiring them for. There's a really good, there's a really amazing book that we believe every business owner should read. It's called The E-Myth.
Yes, I've mentioned that a few times. Yeah, on the show.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. But in that book, he talks to the lady he's having a discussion with, Sarah, he calls her, and because he does in the audiobook, it's him narrating. We have the audiobook. It's fantastic. He has a conversation with her, and it's like, so Sarah was telling me about her experience. I poured her another cup of tea.
Yeah.
He mentions, Sarah mentions her first staff member, how initially the staff member was like a godsend, and she could just pile off anything she wanted onto her. But then that person then becomes someone that doesn't know their role properly, and the business becomes severely dependent upon them, because and they essentially know all the ins and outs, but they don't actually know how to do the jobs. And I mean, we experienced that, and it made the relationship with our staff member at the time quite tricky, because the staff member didn't know exactly what their role was, and it added layers of stress, you know. So having staff members for specific purposes, if you're going to hire a kitchen assistant, hire them as a kitchen assistant, that's it, and then write a checklist of every job you want them to do on a daily basis, and don't don't deviate from that. Don't say, oh, could you give us a hand with these receipts, or
yes.
go run to the shop for me and buy some biscuits or whatever, or anything like that, or do the post run. It's just hire staff specifically for what you want them to do, and have an organization chart as well, like how you want your business to look, and then you can gradually. There's the EMIS, the EMIS that covers all this stuff, and the org chart, since we did ours, is invaluable, and it helps us see where we're going, and having staff for specific tasks is really important.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point actually as well. And like you said, so that if it can make a staff member feel confused and stressed if they've got all this stuff, but also, like you say, if they leave, you've actually lost several roles. Like you haven't just lost, like you said, the kitchen assistant. You've lost, the kitchen assistant come bookkeeper, receipt keeper come, what have you. So that's really good advice. And actually, I think the E-Myth, I'm pretty sure I saw online, he's actually written an updated version. There's actually a new version out that's updated, I thought I saw. So
we read the revisited.
The revisited one, for sure. Excellent. And what other expert help have you used, like to grow your business? Obviously, you said you went on the sales course, and you've learned how to do that. What other expert help, if any, have you used to grow the business?
Well, we've actually had from day one. We've had a business coach from day one, and our first business coach, she was amazing. She was so fantastic, and she helped us with our general business skills massively, and all areas of our business, and we worked with her for a year and a half, I think, and she helped me. For example, she helped me increase my sales conversion rate when I was out on the road from, I think it was like 40% to 70%, maybe 30% to 70%, just by having her give me, share with me her experience and how to, things like how to value yourself, wear a nice crisp iron white shirt with smart work pants with suit pants, trousers, and smart polished shoes, and have. And the way when you go out, have a script when you sell. Script is essential, and know your numbers inside out, know your customers, know your markups, know everything, and about what you're selling, and so we had a coach from day one, and then we moved towards a different coach, because we realized we needed someone actually in our industry who's done what we're doing, who's got to where we want to be. And so we switched to a coach who works in the food industry, is a health food business, manufactures and makes health food. So they can, and the whatever it is, however many $1,000 a session, to gain insights from them. Their insights are worth 10 times that, 100 times that from that session, because it helped us like save our business on a number of occasions. And then also we've done some of the EMIS coaching, which is invaluable as well. Fantastic. So a coach is invaluable. Like a lot of people in older generations who haven't worked in businesses, or more of a kind of employee mindset, who are running a little trade businesses, they say, "Oh, I don't need a coach. I don't need help. I already know what I'm doing."
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there is.
But you get a coach who's, I always say, if I wanted to be a famous actor, if I wanted to be a successful actor, I trained as an actor. If I wanted to be a successful actor, I would go and ask a successful actor, a famous actor I want to be like, to train me, or who trained them, because go straight to the source and find out.
Absolutely. No, that's great advice. Very good advice. Yeah, important to invest in yourself as well as your business, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
What about marketing then in terms of PR? Because you've got social media and, there's a lot of things to juggle with, running the business as well as marketing it. So what are some of the key marketing strategies you've used that have been successful in getting your brand out there? You mentioned a couple already, actually, which was going to events, like sponsoring events run by Sydney Vegan Club, for example. And I know I've seen you at events like vegan expos and stuff like that. So what about other ways of marketing?
Yeah, well, I might I might struggle with this a bit because we've had the classic small business problem in the last couple of years of, because we're also running a manufacturing business, so we have to manufacture the chocolate as well as sell it, market it, and run the business. Sometimes some areas get less attention than others. This is one area where we're just starting to put a bit more attention on it now. So the main thing that we've done really is so there's offline and online marketing. So we do a lot of events. We mainly focus on vegan events now. We go there with our chocolate and just spread chocolatey love, and we have our chocolate fountain, so people can
Yes, that's amazing. That's a real eye catcher, actually. It certainly catches my eye whenever I see you. I'm like, oh, there's the fountain.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. And so when we do online, in terms of, we have social media, we mainly use Instagram and Facebook, and we just use it as a way of communicating with people, and just putting pretty pictures of food up there and and communicating our message as well. So it's quite simple at the moment. I'd actually say the main marketing thing that we've really taken on board is this idea of, have you heard of the purple cow?
Yes, Seth Godin. Yes.
Yeah. So this is something that we've kind of run with, which is really making our products stand out, making them thinking outside the box, doing something unusual, something that will make people sort of stand up and take notice. I think that's the ultimate thing that we aim for in our marketing.
Yeah, and I think that definitely works. As I say, it's very eye-catching, your brand. I've seen your products, I think it was in Dr. Earth in Newtown in Sydney, and your eye definitely goes to them because of the colourfulness and the quirky names and what have you. So that's definitely working fantastic. Now, we touched on something earlier, which I want to talk about next, is around funding the businesses, because like you say, you're obviously starting a business of any kind. It does take some investment. And you said that you went to a business workshop and you asked for investment and got it. What are you able to share about that? Because that sounds pretty cool and interesting.
Well, we went to the workshop, and it was a 2-day event. And we went there. It was a free event. We went there out of curiosity. We were already considering maybe starting a chocolate business and running it markets once a week, twice a week, to get ourselves some cash, because we were in a bit of a poverty trap at the time, because we'd been in Australia 6 months, and Melindy's Australian, but she'd been in England for 16 years, and without Australian working experience, getting a job here is very challenging. So it can be very challenging. So we went. It was kind of, we went to the seminar out of like curiosity and a little bit of desperation, I suppose. And we were ready to. We were kind of ready to pop. We were already well on the way, thinking we were going to start it. So we did this event, and some of the main things that the mentor taught us was, number one, ask what you want. Ask for something, you might just get it. Number two, you do a small business and a large business. It's the same amount of work, but smaller results with small business. So you might as well do a large business. And three, you've got to learn to sell. So like we said earlier, we stood up at the end when he was doing the special deals from the stage on his sales program. And we stood up and we took the deal, and we went on the sales course a month later. And we got home that evening. We thought, wow, we've just spent every cent we had, and we're meant to be moving house in a week. Looks like we're starting a chocolate business. So I ran the numbers on what I thought at the time a chocolate business would cost without any idea. And I don't know how I got to this figure. But it was, well, I probably do. I've got the figures, my workings for it, but it was about $35,000 to just get us started. And we were thinking big at that time. We were thinking, like trademarks, website, domains, all that kind of stuff, and protecting a large idea. So we literally made a list of people we knew had money, and we called up a family member who had some money, and not a lot, but we knew they had some, and we asked them, and I sold them on the idea for 5 minutes, and because we were so passionate, we're going to change the world, and we're going to make this chocolate that's amazing, and within 5-10 minutes, we had the investor sealed $35,000, and in 2 days it was in our bank account. So it really goes to show you've got to ask, and you might just get it.
That's fantastic. So I love that. I really want people to just stop and pause and acknowledge that, because that is, a lot of people just, they would think, oh my God, I couldn't possibly do that. Do you know what I mean? That would be cringing. So I love the fact that you've just put it out there, and obviously you sold it. And as well as I want to point out your passion, because I think that can be what really sells it. Yeah, I'm sure people want to see the figures. Yeah. They want to know that, you're not just, kind of dreaming and you haven't got the realities in place, but that passion. And I know when I've interviewed investors, I've interviewed 2 on this show, and both of them have said, that passion is so important. The people behind the product is so important. So I love that you've shared that. So that's awesome. So, and can I ask, if I'm going into too much detail and you don't want to share, that's absolutely fine. But so in that, did they buy into the company, or was it more of a loan, or how did that? Have they got shares in your company, or was it more of a loan arrangement?
Look, we've had several. In several injections with both arrangements, loans and loans and shares. And the thing is, you don't want to give all your company away. You want to do as little as possible as that. And to be honest, when you're starting up a business, you want to start with people like in your immediate circles, family and friends. And you keep it professional, you sell it as a professional venture, and you treat them like a professional lender or investor, and that way you don't want to have those blurry lines between family members, because that can kind of create friction sometimes.
Yes, I'm glad you've touched on that.
So really, it's banks and traditional lenders, they're reluctant to, from what we've experienced, having had only been here 6 months when we started it, and we went for bank funding 6 months into our business, and everyone said no, because a 6-month-old business, from a British person who's still on a than a Australian person who's never worked in their life in Australia. Just they kind of they politely have to turn you down, and it can be very challenging, So starting with people you actually know, who can help you out, is really important, and also just that, like you said, that passion thing. I think the thing is, like I said previously, we were ready to pop, we were ready to just go for it. And I think Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, said once, maybe it was someone else, they said, someone asked them at a seminar, should I start a business? I'm thinking about it. And he said, no, if you're asking that question, then you're not ready to start it. Because people who are ready to start a business, they're ready. They're popped.
Yes, you're not just thinking about that makes perfect sense. That's fantastic. I really appreciate you sharing that. I know because some businesses, they're maybe a bit guarded and don't want to really share how they got started. So I love that you have broached that and given some really good advice there to give people permission hopefully to be brave and ask, because at the end of the day they can only say no. And I think sometimes as well, and I think it's Anthony Robbins, I probably heard it first from him, is that one of our core fears as human beings is that being rejected. We don't like it, and so we kind of avoid situations where we do it. But obviously in order to go forward and be successful, you've got to put yourself out there, and some people will say yes and love you, and some people will say no, and you've just got to handle that and not be devastated by it, and so that you don't carry on. You just kind of go with the yeses, roll with the yeses, but it's definitely worth putting yourself out there. So I love that you've shared that. That's wonderful. So I'll just ask you a final question then, and tell us about where you're at. You've already had some wonderful success, and I love that you've shown that you can come from another country as well, and in a short space of time still be very successful. So what's your future plans for your brand and yourselves?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Well, we're still only 2.5 years old, so we are still in that infancy phase. So
we want to grow into a strong established brand in Australia, and we want to do more kind of things that inspire us, like work with more charities, which is something we've just started doing. We donate 10 cents from every bar that we sell to Sea Shepherd now.
Oh,
yeah,
lovely.
the new lines, the Happy Thought. Have you seen the new 3 ones? Happy Thoughts, Frothy Toffee, and
I don't think
Jazz.
I have. No, I haven't.
Oh, you could grab them down at the cruelty-free shop.
Okay. I'll have a look next time I'm there.
Yeah. You could grab them down there. They're the same size, same price, but they have the Sea Shepherd sticker on them on the front and stamp on it.
Oh, lovely. That's a smart move. Awesome. So basically, you're looking to expand across Australia and then, international after that?
Other planets.
Awesome. That's good. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
That's what I like to hear.
We're
Big vision.
We're in talks with 2 Martians and a moon at the moment.
Well, those spacey ones that you've got, the astral ones, they'd be perfect, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Exactly.
Awesome. So look, you've shared some wonderful intel and information and strategies. I think so many people are going to get a lot out of it. I've learned a lot. I always do, and I learn a lot from everyone I interview, but that's been really, really super helpful. So I really appreciate both of you taking the time to speak with me today. I'm looking forward to personally seeing your chocolate fountain at upcoming events and enjoying your chocolate. So
you will.
Thank you, Ed and Malindi. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Katrina, for having us.
Thank you so much.
So that was Ed Lower and Malindi Lovegrove from The Chocolate Yogi. You can find out more at thechocolateyogi.com.au. And that link is on the show notes page at veganbusinessmedia.com/podcasts and going to episode 61. Now for our Vegan Business News Roundup. Birmingham in the UK is getting its first vegan and sugar-free cafe this month. That's March 2017, reports I Am Birmingham. The Natural Healthy Foods restaurant will open in the city's centre following the success of its Digbeth store, which opened in September 2015. The new store, which will seat 54 people, will carry around 1,500 products, including gluten-free, hot and raw food, and a range of drinks such as kombucha. CEO Simon McCarroll is committed to bringing healthy eating to the area after seeing an improvement in his own health after adopting a plant-based diet, as well as showing that vegan foods are delicious. The range of food products that can be made vegan continues with the announcement that Canadian bread company Osery Bakery is launching an animal-free packaged brioche. The company is offering samples of the new brioche bites and brioche buns at the Natural Products Expo West in Anaheim, California, which is taking place this weekend. Osery has replaced typical brioche ingredients such as butter, milk and egg with plant-based alternatives. The new range will complement and expand the brand's existing assortment of morning rounds, snacking rounds and one buns in flavours such as muesli, cranberry orange and date and chia. The family-owned business is committed to creating healthy products. Using real fruits and grains, all Osery Bakery products are free of dairy, egg, nut, tree nut, soy, artificial flavours, colours, preservatives, additives and GMOs. The new brioche buns and bites will be available at leading natural specialty and grocery stores across the US from early May this year. Isn't it great to see more and more products veganised? It's more proof that we just don't need animal parts or secretions to make tasty and healthy food. Still on the subject of veganising, the US's most prestigious culinary organisation will host an all-star veganised dinner in New York this month, reports Latest Vegan News. Curated by Veganizer NYC's Kiki Adami, the James Beard Foundation has brought together chefs Jay Astafa of Jay Astafa Catering and Events, Daphne Cheng of Ladybird and Mother of Pearl, Chloe Coscarelli of By Chloe, and Adam Sobel of the Cinnamon Snail to create a delicious plant-based menu accompanied by wines from Quercibella, the vegan and biodynamic winery owned by investor Sebastiano Cosia Castiglione, who I interviewed in episode 7 of this podcast. Guests attending the event will enjoy a 6-course dinner. So this is absolutely fantastic. It's so exciting to see these top culinary organisations embrace plant-based food, as this really helps to break down any negative stereotypes about it. Kiki Adami is doing an excellent job with her veganising of eateries. Great stuff. Finally, General Mills is continuing its investment into vegan businesses by backing 20-year-old entrepreneur Daniel Katz's D's Naturals brand, reports Fortune. The healthy snack startup makes plant-based no-cow bars that are packed with protein and low in sugar, as well as a line of nut butters. In just 2 years of business, D's Naturals has generated nearly $10 million in annual revenue. Katz told Fortune this was the first investment he'd taken outside his family. The terms of the investment by 301 Inc., the venture capital arm of General Mills, are undisclosed but described as significant. D's Naturals joins other plant-based brands that 301 has invested in, including vegan protein maker Beyond Meat, kale chips maker Rhythm Superfoods, and nut milk cheese and yogurt brand Kite Hill. It's fantastic to see these big companies recognising that plant-based foods are the future, and how inspiring for a young entrepreneur just 20 years old to have so much success with his vegan brand. Love it. So that's it for this episode of Vegan Business Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a review and rating on iTunes or any other platform you're listening on. Finally, I encourage you to head over to veganbusinessmedia.com, where you can find more resources, including details of my media and PR consultations, copywriting, editing and proofreading services to help you grow your vegan business. I'm Katrina Fox, author of Vegan Ventures, Start and Grow an Ethical Business, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next episode of Vegan Business Talk. Bye for now.